In Akira Nagai's character, 2021, the line between fiction and reality blurs when aspiring manga artist Keigo Yamashiro stumbles upon a gruesome crime scene. A family of 4 murdered in their home. Instead of reporting the killer he glimpsed, Yamashiro conceals the truth, channeling the harrowing experience into his work. His new manga, 34, featuring the enigmatic villain Dagger, becomes a sensation, catapulting him to fame. However, the boundary between his art and real life collapses as actual murders begin to mirror his fictional creations. At the heart of this unsettling narrative is Morozumi Shuichi, the real-life murderer, who not only inspires Yamashiro's fictional antagonist, but also starts reenacting the killings depicted in the manga. His actions force Yamashiro to confront the consequences of his silence and the moral dilemmas of his newfound success. While character is based on a light novel and manga of the same name, this analysis will focus on the film adaptation, which introduces significant plot twists and an ending that diverges from its source material. Keigo Yamashiro, an aspiring manga artist who struggles to create a captivating villain due to his inherently kind nature, a flaw that keeps him trapped as an assistant to a renowned mangaka. His unreliable narrator status stems from his decision to lie about witnessing a murder, using the killer as inspiration for his manga 34. This choice traps him in a cycle of guilt and complicity as real-world murders mirror his fictionalized crimes. Keigo's struggle reflects his own inability to confront the darkness within himself, making his creative process a metaphor for his ethical decay. Inspector Shunsuke Seida, a sharp, manga-loving detective who connects the murders to Keigo's work. He admires Keigo's talent, but grows suspicious of his moral compromises. Seida's empathy for Keigo contrasts with his duty to uncover the truth. Inspector Kota Makabe, a more pragmatic investigator, often serving as Seida's grounded counterpart. His skepticism toward Keigo's innocence adds pressure to the protagonist's unraveling psyche. And Atsushi Henmi. He is a minor but pivotal character who confesses to a similar family murder he committed at the age of 16. His unexpected admission to the recent crimes introduces a perplexing twist, creating a narrative misdirection as both the audience and Keigo know he is not the actual perpetrator. Henmi's confession raises questions about his motives and mental state, adding another layer of psychological complexity to the story. Let's begin with the first category, personality. Assessing how captivating, memorable, and commanding he is through his personal traits, including charisma and how well he owns the room, whether with words, silence, or style. Morozumi Shuichi, portrayed by Fukase, is a character who exudes an unsettling charisma. His presence is both enigmatic and commanding, drawing attention whenever he appears on screen. With his distinctive pink hair and calm demeanor, he stands out as a unique figure in the narrative. Morozumi presents a disarming facade, cheerful, friendly, and exuding a charm that immediately puts others at ease. This demeanor aligns with the classic traits of a charming psychopath, a term used to describe individuals who employ superficial charm to manipulate and deceive. Such individuals are often engaging conversationalists, adept at making others feel special, all while concealing their true intentions. In all essence, his persona possesses the qualities of a cliché psychopath overused in the media. Final score, 8.3 over 10. We now turn our attention to his capability, evaluating his skills, intelligence, and strategic prowess within the context of the movie. Morozumi's abilities are multifaceted. His most striking skill is his capacity to execute complex, ritualistic murders that mirror the fictional killings depicted in Keigo Yamashiro's manga. One of his most unique techniques is his deliberate choice to murder families of 4. This pattern is not random. It reflects a deep-seated belief in the concept of a perfect family as an ideal of happiness. Beyond his physical actions, he demonstrates psychological acuity. He manipulates situations to his advantage, such as when he confronts Yamashiro, claiming to be a co-creator of the manga, thereby obscuring the distinction between reality and fiction. This not only unsettles Yamashiro, but also positions him as an unpredictable and dangerous adversary. Despite being a suspect, he operates with a calm demeanor, often evading capture and continuing his deadly spree. This adaptability under pressure showcases his competence in navigating complex situations. Final score for Capability, 7.4 out of 10. Now, we confront his moral complexity. The shadows where a villain's justifications, contradictions, and humanity collide. Morozumi is not a mere embodiment of evil. He is a character whose actions stem from a convoluted sense of justice and personal ideology. His killings are neither senseless nor purely sadistic. They're framed as a twisted artistic collaboration with Keigo. By replicating Dagger's violence in the manga, he treats murder as a performance, an extension of Keigo's creativity. While his methods are undeniably horrific, they are driven by a warped sense of purpose. He does not kill for mere pleasure or chaos. He believes in the righteousness of his cause, making his moral compass twisted and tragically flawed. Final score, 4.3 out of 10. Threat level. Evaluating the extent of danger and disruption he poses within the world of character. Before encountering Keigo, Morozumi operated as a clandestine serial killer targeting seemingly happy families of 4. These murders, while horrifying, were isolated incidents that primarily instilled fear within local communities. His actions, though brutal, were contained and lacked the broader societal impact that would categorize him as an existential threat. However, his encounter with Keigo marked a pivotal escalation. Morozumi's realization that he had become the inspiration for the manga 34 propelled him into a new realm of influence. This not only amplified his notoriety, but also introduced a psychological dimension to his threat, as he manipulated public perception and sowed widespread fear. Notably, Morozumi's influence extends beyond his direct actions. His charismatic, yet psychopathic demeanor inspires followers, such as Henmi, a mentally unstable individual who idolizes him and even confesses to committing his crimes. Furthermore, he weaponizes Keigo's guilt and ambition, binding the artist to his crimes through psychological coercion. Keigo becomes complicit, trapped in a feedback loop where each manga chapter fuels new violence. This symbiotic relationship amplifies Morozumi's threat as his influence grows with Keigo's creative output. Final score, 7.2 out of 10. Having examined his threat, we now delve into his psychological depth, exploring the emotional and psychological intricacies that define his character. An intriguing aspect of his character is the ambiguity surrounding his existence. The film initially sets up the possibility that he could be a figment of Keigo's imagination. Is he just a manifestation of his suppressed desires and guilt to create a perfect villain? However, the narrative twist reveals that Morozumi is indeed a real person. Adding to the complexity, Morozumi is not his real name. He adopts this identity from someone who sold it due to financial desperation. His fixation on murdering families of 4 is not merely a modus operandi, but a manifestation of deeper psychological scars. This pattern is rooted in a past linked to a cult that idealized the family unit as the pinnacle of happiness. His actions can be interpreted as a perverse rebellion against this twisted attempt to dismantle the very concept that once defined his existence. His claim of being a co-creator of the manga that depicts his crimes, suggesting a fractured identity. This is poignantly encapsulated in his courtroom query, "Who am I?" A question that underscores his existential crisis and loss of self. Final score, 8.5 out of 10. A villain's purpose gives their actions weight. transforming senseless violence into something ideologically or emotionally rooted. Morozumi's motivations are disturbing, but they aren't random. They're built on a dark, psychological foundation that evolves drastically throughout the film. At the heart of Morozumi's initial motive is an obsession with the idea of the perfect family. Before he ever meets Keigo or sees the manga, he is already targeting families with exactly 4 members. This compulsion is tied to his past, one deeply influenced by a cult that idealized the nuclear family as the pinnacle of happiness and spiritual harmony. The number 4, mother, father, and 2 children, represented a sacred balance. When that balance is correct, Morozumi believes it must be destroyed. In his mind, killing these families is a way of preserving that perfection in its most untouchable, unchangeable state: death. However, everything changes when Morozumi stumbles upon Keigo Yamashiro's manga. Instead of being threatened by this exposure, Morozumi is fascinated and ultimately inspired. What started as a cult-driven compulsion mutates into something more meta. Morozumi now seeks recognition. He wants to be seen, understood, and immortalized through art. The murders become not just ritualistic, but performative. This evolution in his motive turns him into more than just a serial killer. He becomes a symbolic antagonist, an embodiment of how obsession, trauma, and ideology can take on new forms when filtered through media. And worse, that legacy inspires others. In the film's unsettling final moments, even as Morozumi is held captive, his ideological offspring, like Henmi, are already on the move, extending his reach beyond death or incarceration. Final score, 8.8 out of 10. It's worth noting that the manga's ending differs significantly from the film. In the movie, Henmi kills Inspector Shunsuke Seida under Morozumi's influence. However, in the manga, while Henmi does stab Seida, the inspector survives and later reveals a twist. Henmi actually killed Morozumi, proclaiming that it was time for him to reclaim his role as the main character. During the trial, Henmi explains that Morozumi had once been a fan of his murders, sending him letters and eventually adopting the persona of the killer we come to know. In the end, it becomes clear that Henmi was the true villain all along. Personally, I prefer the film's version, as I found the villain shift in the manga less satisfying. Now that we've analyzed Morozumi from various angles, let's pull it all together and see where he stands as a villain. Final average villain score, 7.42 out of 10. All in all, Morozumi is a compelling villain who leaves a strong impression on screen, but his character could have been pushed further with more emotional nuance and a clearer connection to the story's thematic core. Despite these limitations, his presence in 34 is undeniably magnetic and remains a memorable figure in the film's exploration of crime, identity, and the blurred lines between reality and fiction.